Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loko Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loko Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gurnana Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Prapta Sakalyana Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu ki Gita Vaditra Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringaratanma Diramajanado Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringaratanma Diramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kridvaiva Truptin Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shiradikama Vabayara Param Madhuralila Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Madhuralila Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalopasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Ne kunjayuno Rati Kelisidai Jajali Virjukti Apekshaniya Nikunjayuno Rati Kelisidai Jajali Tatrati Daksha Ativalabhasa Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Sakshadhari Dena Shamasta Shashri Ruktastathava Bhataiva Sadhubi Sakshadhari Dena Kintu Praborja Priya eva tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasadam Bhagavat Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Dayam Stubham Tasya Yasatri Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Dhyayam Stuvam Tassa Yasatri Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Shunavadi Pachatarisha Tarine Nama Sarasvate Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govindaram Srimad Sudam, Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadrama, Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Premanande Haribo. Jai Vishnupada Param Saprabhajakacharya Sutra Srashishi Maharaj Divine Grace. अब हो चरबिना भक्ति विरांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि सांस्कृतिक चर वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगुस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासारि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन स्मरण गौरांग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरनय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जग की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहत मृदंग ट्वेंस नेंटुल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप कुपना राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजबिम वृंदावन मथुरधाम की जय। दिलो श्री राधा नील माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्रधाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर सिंहरे भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। जगंगा माय जामुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। All glories to the Son of the bodies. All glories to the Son of the bodies. All glories to the Son of the bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narashinhaya. Prahalada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankana kalaye. Ito na shringha parato na shringha. Yato yato yamitato na shringha. Bahir na shringha, hriday na shringha. Narshingha marim sharanam prapadye. Tavakara kamalavare nakam advuta shingham dalita hiranyakashipu tano bringam keshavadita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare. Jaya Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev. Jaya Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev Narsingha Dev Jaya Narsingha Dev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nrsingadev Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ei Abhilashi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ei Abhilashi Je tomara sharana loy tara vancha purana hoy Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavan Vasi ननु गाता कोरो सेवा अधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दासे कोए जीना मोरा होए श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी
श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
Param param vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shakti Nakala Ikadrishi Tava Kripaya Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. His Sankirtan moon is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God expressed the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense, force, prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause that devotion, service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when is the hairs of my body stand on end the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant and well in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of demigods and Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often in Vedas as fruit of activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person by the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul.
Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudhapa Apasidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Bhava Bhumestvam Nidesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpaturabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Kirabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastato Shimad Bharada Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamanam Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatakstriye Struna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Panchatattva Mantra Ki Jai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, his incarnation, Shri Advaita Prabhu, his internal potency, Shri Gadadhara Prabhu, and his marginal potency, Srivas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Panchatattva mantra. Then we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanyāvatara, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be very effective. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The transcendental vibration established by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method of reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual souls, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by the material atmosphere. The material atmosphere in which we are now living is called Maya, or illusion. Maya means that which is not. And what is this illusion? The illusion is that we are all trying to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of her stringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to imitate the all-powerful master, this is called illusion. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in her complexities. Therefore, although we are engaged in a hard struggle to conquer nature, we are ever more dependent on her. This illusory struggle against material nature can be stopped at once by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and this process is recommended for this age by authorities. By practical experience also, one can perceive that by chanting this Mahamantra, or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel a transcendental ecstasy coming through from the spiritual stratum. And when one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of senses, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on the transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, and thus this sound vibration surpasses all lower strata of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. There is no need, therefore, to understand the language of the mantra, nor is there any need for mental speculation or any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Mahamantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in the chanting without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen this practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. Of course, for one who is too entangled in material life, it takes a little more time to come to the standard point. But even such a materially engrossed man is raised to the spiritual platform very quickly. When the mantra is chanted by a pure devotee of the Lord in love, it has the greatest efficacy on the hearers, and as such, the chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, or of the Lord, so that immediate effects can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotees should be avoided. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. The word Hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord, and the words Krishna and Rama are forms of addressing the Lord himself. Both Krishna and Rama mean the supreme pleasure, and Hara is the supreme pleasure energy of the Lord, changed to Hare in the vocative. The supreme pleasure energy of the Lord helps us to reach the Lord. The material energy called Maya is also one of the multi-energies of the Lord, and we, the living entities, are also the energy, marginal energy of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior to material energy. When the superior energy is in contact with the inferior energy, an incompatible situation arises. But when the superior marginal energy is in contact with the superior energy called Hara, or Radharani, the living entity is established in his happy, normal condition. These three words, namely Hare, Krishna, and Rama, are the transcendental seeds of the Mahamantra. This chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, to give protection to the devotees, to the conditioned soul. Okay, one second. Yeah, the chanting exactly like the genuine cry of a child for its mother, Mother Hara, helps the devotee achieve the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. No other means of spiritual realization, therefore, is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. So we're going to repeat the verse from yesterday because I did not finish explaining it, and then we'll go on to the next verse. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 23. Pratyadisam maya tatra distam maya tatra trayi karma vimohite tapome hridayam shakshad atmaham tapaso naga. Pratyadistam, ordered, maya, by me, tatra, because of, tvayi, unto you, karma, duty, vimohite, being perplexed, tapa, penance, me, it's me, it's not, in Sanskrit it's me, hridayam, heart, shakshat, directly, atma, life and soul, aham, myself, tapasa, of one who is engaged in penance, anaga, O sinless one. Translation, O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The penance by which one can see the Personality Godhead face to face is to be understood as devotional service to the Lord and nothing else, because only by discharging devotional service in transcendental love can one approach the Lord. Such penance is the internal potency of the Lord and is non-different from Him. Such acts of internal potency are exhibited by non-attachment for material enjoyment. The living entities are encaged in the conditions of material bondage because of their propensity for overlordship. So when it says encaged, that means they're in prison. They're in a cage, like a bird or an animal. Because of their propensity for overlordship. But by engagement in the devotional service to the Lord, one becomes detached from this enjoying spirit. So this is perverted enjoying, not real enjoying, like transcendental happiness. The living entities are encaged in the condition of material bodies because of their propensity for overlordship. By engagement in devotional service of the Lord, one becomes detached from this enjoying spirit. The devotees automatically become detached from worldly enjoyment, and this detachment is the result of perfect knowledge. Therefore, the penance of devotional service includes knowledge and detachment, and that is the manifestation of the transcendental potency. So this is a paraphrase of the first canto, second chapter, 7th verse, which says, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Gyanyat Yasavairagam Gyanam Chayad Haitukam. So this says that by engaging in devotional service, several concomitant things happen. Number one develops knowledge. In other words, you don't have to cultivate knowledge separately, like pass tests and study this and study that. If you simply engage in devotional service, and part of devotional service is hearing and chanting, or Shravanam Kirtanam, every morning, afternoon, and evening, If you simply engage in devotional service, you will develop knowledge and you will develop detachment naturally, just by the hearing. Now, you can try and do it academically by studying books and passing tests, but the more effective way is by engaging in devotional service, which is non-different than penance, accepting something uncomfortable to make spiritual advancement. Well, what's so uncomfortable about it, actually? Yes, in the beginning it is uncomfortable. It is an imposition. Waking up early every day, which means you have to go to sleep early every day, to wake up early and still be, not sleepy and blurred in your mind. And then chanting your rounds early in the morning, and then coming to Mangala Aarti and hearing the chanting again and dancing, and then Tulsi Aarti, and then class. So basically, that has been reduced down to 2 hours, from 5:30 to 7:30. At the end is Guru Puja. And that's actually short. In other temples, it's longer. But because everybody works and so forth, we've got it down to 2 hours. And so that is the penance. But it's non-different than devotional service, as it's explaining in this verse. And actually, in the beginning, it may be a little discomforting, but eventually your body and mind get used to it, and it becomes this source of transcendental pleasure to wake up early every day, take rest early, wake up early, be able to finish your rounds before Mangala Aarti, come to the Mangala Aarti, hear the class. So basically you're up 4 hours, 2 hours for waking up, taking a shower, and then chanting your rounds, and then 2 hours for the Mangala Aarti, the Tulsi Aarti, and so forth, and then the class. So now you're ready to face the world. You've gotten the vaccine every day. It's not like there's 1 or 2 or 3 jabs. We're going for thousands of jabs, right? We're what's more fanatical than Dr. Grouchy? He said, well, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. We get it every day, like that, right into the brain. And we're not jabbing the arm, we're jabbing the brain, right? And purifying it. So this is the real brain food, is hearing, the transcendental vibrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the penance of devotional service includes knowledge and detachment, and that is the manifestation of the transcendental potency. Look how Prabhupada is describing this. There's nothing mundane about waking up early, coming to the program, chanting your rounds early in the morning, and hearing the class. There's nothing mundane about it. This is transcendental. This is the spiritual world. This is what people do in the spiritual world. And eventually all the hesitation, all the doubt, how am I going to wake up early? How am I going to take rest early? How am I going to chant my rounds? It all goes away. And you see that it is possible. And it is the real life of the devotee. The real life of the devotee is not fighting the traffic, going to work, and having deadlines where you present all kinds of nonsense things, and having to deal with all kinds of nonsense people. That's not spiritual life. This is the spiritual life. So we can do both. And like I said, no one was forced to get married. They got married. No one's forced to have children. They wanted to have children. So then there's a lot of responsibility. There's nothing wrong, because we have the example of Srila Prabhupada. He put up with all that also. Many of his god brothers were sannyasis at very young age. He was a grihastha. But that did not disqualify him in any way. And he did his duty to his family, and he did his duty to his spiritual master also. It's just a question of organizing yourself properly. And in order to do this, you have to give up sense gratification. Because if you engage in sense gratification, you won't be able to do it. You'll just say, well, I'll just eliminate the spiritual part and just do the other part. Right? Be a good husband, or be a good wife. No, that's not. I mean, yes, if you don't get initiated, okay. But if you're going to get initiated, you have to do both. You have to do both. You have to organize yourself, and you cannot have sense gratification to do both. You have to give it up. It doesn't mean you give up children. It doesn't mean you give up working. It doesn't mean you take care of your wife or your husband. It just means that you give up sense gratification. But there's a greater sense gratification, that is, pleasing your transcendental senses by regular hearing about Krishna, and then sharing that with others. So that's transcendental happiness. When you see another person become Krishna conscious, that is your greatest achievement in life. And then, so some of us can maybe make one person a devotee, and then other people like Prabhupada can make thousands of people devotees, right? But whether it's 1 or 1,000, it's a great achievement to make at least one person Krishna conscious. And at the same time, you become Krishna conscious, because then you have a responsibility of continually guiding that person. So one cannot enjoy material illusory prosperity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. Wow, that's a heavy statement. One cannot enjoy material illusory prosperity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. Well, does that mean we should give up our job immediately now and become a homeless person with our family and live in a box under the I-5? No, that's not what he's saying here. Some people would interpret it like that. That's called taking an argument to a ridiculous conclusion. It's a technique of defeating someone in arguments. It's taking it to well, that means, I'm going to give up my job, and there's no food on the table, and we all become beggars, and we'll live in a cardboard box under the I-5 with all the other homeless people. No, that's not what it's saying here. But that is a ridiculous conclusion by people of bad faith. What it's saying here is one cannot enjoy material illusory prosperity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. So what it means is that one does not become a donkey carrying heavy loads, just like in India you have the washerman. He has a thin donkey, and he puts this huge load on the back of the donkey. And the donkey has to work every day, and all he gets is a little pouch with some grass in it, whereas grass is growing all over the place, but he just gets a little bit, and he's happy. He said, "Oh, well, my master is nice to me. He's giving me this little pouch of grass." So that is not the meaning here. The material prosperity is like that, like the donkey, working like a donkey all day long just to get a little bit of grass. And materialists, they work many long hours all day long just to get some sense gratification at night. That's not human life. That's the life of ignorant people. So they use, but there's no prescription that you cannot be prosperous, but your prosperity is following the rules and our prosperity is following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness in the same way, and at the same time working honestly, but living in a minimalist life. And whatever is extra, you use it in service of Krishna. That way you're not affected by karma, but you're doing your duty. Food is still on the table, the mortgage is still paid, the car insurance is paid, but you're not living exorbitantly, although you might be able to gain exorbitantly. There's no rule that you're not allowed to make any money. If you're a grihasta, you have to have your own livelihood, but it has to be honest. And as I said, you have to be a minimalist. You the family members have to agree that we're going to be satisfied with a few very good things and not go beyond that. But yet anything beyond that, as far as prosperity goes, we will use it in the service of Krishna. So, one who has no information of the transcendental bliss in the association of the Lord foolishly desires to enjoy this temporary material happiness. Well, that's the case of almost 99% of the whole population of the world. They don't have any substantive knowledge. Look that word up, substantive. It's a very good word. Substantive knowledge about one who has no information of the transcendental bliss in the association of the Lord foolishly desires to enjoy this temporary material happiness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that if someone sincerely wants to see the Lord and at the same time wants to enjoy this material world, he is considered to be a fool only. What does it say? Substantive. Substantive, yeah. What?
Threefold meanings. One is having substance involving matters of immediate or practical importance to all concerned.
Yeah.
The second one is considerable in amount or numbers or substantial. And
Second one is what?
considerable in amount or numbers.
Yes.
Substantial. Third is real rather than apparent.
Right. That's the point. How do you pronounce it?
Substantive.
Substantive. Yeah, I was mispronounced. Substantive. Yeah, that's you have something real. What's real? It's Krishna consciousness. It's not something illusory like sense gratification and just, being interested in cricket and the stock market and going to Disneyland and all those things. That's not substantive at all. There's no substance there. It's just illusion. But you have a real spiritual life and you can share it with others and you're regulated according to the Varnashram Dharma system and according to Krishna consciousness and Daiva Varnashram. Everything is directed toward pleasing Krishna in one's life. That's substantive type of life. It's real, in other words. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that if someone sincerely wants to see the Lord and at the same time wants to enjoy this material world, he is considered to be a fool only. One who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering into the eternal kingdom of God. The Lord favors such a foolish devotee by snatching all that he may possess in the material world. If such a foolish devotee of the Lord tries to recoup his position, then the merciful Lord again snatches away all that he may have possessed. By such repeated failures in material prosperity, he becomes very unpopular with his family members and friends. Wow, that's a heavy statement, right? And basically he's quoting a verse here, 10th canto, 88th chapter, 8th verse, Yasyaham anugrinanti harishe taddanam sanai. Prabhupada says that he was aware of this verse, but whenever he would think of it, it would horrify him. That's when he was still a grihasta and working and with the family. He was thinking, what a horrible thing. Krishna's going to take everything away from me. I can't imagine such a thing. But Krishna did it. Took everything away from him. Right? And his guru started appearing in his dreams, and his guru was indicating to him that he should take sannyas. And he was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do that? It's horrible, to give up my family, give up my work. But he was forced to give up his work because he went bankrupt. And then he realized that this is actually the mercy of Krishna now, because his kids were grown and they were married and they were going to take care of his wife. And now he was free to actually do what his spiritual master ordered him to do 40 years previously. That is, preach the gospel of Krishna consciousness, of Bhagavad Gita, to the whole world. And in the beginning, he had several trials or several very stressful situations. He was bored by a bull in Vrindavan. You have these big bulls sometimes they're walking around, they have these big horns, right? And they're pushing a cart, right? So one of those bulls bored him right in his stomach and almost killed him. He ended up in the hospital, and everybody's thinking, maybe this is a sign from Krishna that I did the wrong thing. But then he perked up and he realized, no, I have to satisfy my guru, you know. So when he got out of the hospital, he didn't go back to his family. He continued his work of chanting Hare Krishna and writing, translating Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and he edited a newspaper, Back to Godhead, and he would distribute it. He would write it. He'd take it to the typesetting printer. You know, before they didn't have computers, right? You had to typeset. It's a lot of work to do that. Right? If you've ever been in an old printing press company, you know, they have all these typeset figures of letters, and you have to take them and put them in something and put some ink there, and then you have to smack it onto the page, you know, and you go page by page. It's a lot of work, you know, and he had to wait for it to be done and in order to print the book. And there were some mistakes in the book, some typos and things like that. And he talks about that. He says, look, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that says, even if something is grammatically or not up to par, and maybe there's some misspelled words, and maybe there this or that, but because the message is factual and true, it should be accepted. And he in his introduction, he mentions that. You know, because there were some typos, and you know, what do you expect? You know, it's hand typed. It's not typed. It's hand picked letters, and put together. And sometimes people make mistakes. So anyway, he was able to eventually beg this lady, who was a member of another Vaishnava sect, and she owned this steamer company, and she had boats, so she was very wealthy. And he begged her, and she tried to convince him not to go to America. She said, "You're too old. It's too cold there. You won't be able to live there." But he insisted because his Gurudev wanted this. And she finally gave him a free ticket. And in that trip, of course, as you know, he had 2 heart attacks. Look at all this he had to go through, right? And during those years where there was at least a period about 6-7 years where he was a sannyasi, a new sannyasi, he hardly had any money. He was just basically eating only rotis and potatoes. And he mentions how the potato is the king of the vegetables. So he's making, what do you call that? Aloo sabji and roti, and with a little bit of salt on it. But he lived in that very small room. You can't stand up in that room. You have to bend down like this to come in through the door, and you have to keep bend down like this if you stand up. And it's only when you sit down that you keep your back straight. But he had the view of the samadhi of Rupa Goswami, and he meditated on that. In fact, there's a book that explains that some of the people that knew him at that time, they explained that he would often go out in the middle of the night and sit in front of the samadhi, which was only a few feet away from him, and he would chant almost all night long, and tears would come out of his eyes. It's a very nice book that they have all these older people who are all dead now that knew him in those very let's say early days when he was living in this Radha Damodar temple. Okay, so then it says here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that if someone sincerely wants to see the Lord and at the same time wants to enjoy this material world, he is considered to be a fool only. One who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering into the eternal kingdom of God. So I knew a gentleman like that. He was a Hindu. He's a good friend of mine, and he was wealthy. And he told me once, he said, I don't want to, I told him about, look, I said, look, you're getting older, you already have a heart problem. I said, you should get very serious about Krishna consciousness and chant so that you can go back to Godhead. He said, I don't want to go back to Godhead. I want to live, I want to take birth over and over again in Medina. And Medina is next door to Bellevue, right? And where the richest people, where Bill Gates lives and all these very rich Indians and Americans live. I said, that's not the goal of life, to take birth over and over again and live in Medina. And there's no guarantee you're going to be a human being in the next life. You could be a cockroach in Medina, right? I said, yeah, you'll be born again in Medina, that's right, but it's no guarantee you'll be a human being. I said, you shouldn't think like that. He said, no. He said, I don't want to go back to Godhead. I want to always be in Medina. So this is how crazy people are. And he died. He had a heart attack and he died. He had a very bad heart. And he's probably in Medina right now somewhere, you know. He was a very good friend of mine, and we would have long talks. He was always frustrated with his wife, you know. And they would get into arguments all the time. They would call me like in the middle of the night, you know, and he said this to me, and she's saying doing this, you know, and I had to calm them down, you know. And it was always like very difficult. But you see, he knew everything. He was very smart. He knew everything about Krishna consciousness, but he couldn't strictly follow it. And that's because of material attachments, right? So that's why here it says, one who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering into the eternal kingdom of God. The Lord favors such a foolish devotee by snatching all that he may possess in the material world. If such a foolish devotee of the Lord tries to recoup his position, then the merciful Lord again snatches away all that he may have possessed. By such repeated failures in material prosperity, he, meaning the devotee, the foolish devotee, becomes very unpopular with his family members and friends. In the material world, the family members and friends honor persons who are very successful in accumulating wealth by any means. Yeah, even if they're criminals, but they have a lot of money, they are very much appreciated. The foolish devotee of the Lord is thus put into forcible penance by the grace of the Lord, and at the end, the devotee becomes perfectly happy. Whoa. Enforceable penance. And in the end, the devotee becomes perfectly happy, being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, penance in devotional service of the Lord, either by voluntary submission or by being forced by the Lord, is necessary for attaining perfection, and thus such penance is the internal potency of the Lord. This is a huge statement. We read it yesterday, but I wanted to go over it again today. This is a huge statement. This is very, very specific about grihastas. And we should think about this very seriously. And we have the example of Prabhupada himself. Right? Therefore, penance in the devotional service of the Lord, either by voluntary submission or by being forced by the Lord, is necessary for attaining perfection, and thus such penance is the internal potency of the Lord. One cannot, however, be engaged in the penance of devotional service without being completely free from all sins. Yesam tvantigatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda mohanir mukta bhajanti mam chittavataha. This is the 7th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 30-something. Let me see where it is. And we read it yesterday, but we'll read it again. Yes, verse number 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion. What are the dualities of delusion? Should I live in America or should I go back to India? Should I buy this car or should I buy that car? Should I marry this lady or should I marry that lady? Should I buy this stock or should I buy that stock? Should I work in Microsoft or should I work in Twitter? This is duality of delusion, right? And it confuses people, right? They get confused by it. They can't make their minds up, right? And then one time this lady was telling me, you have to come to my house and do puja. I said, what for? She said, my husband and I are always arguing, and we need to have shantipat. I said, what do you argue about? She said, well, this thing and that thing. I said, look, it's better just to make the best of a bad bargain and not always argue with your husband, and because it takes two people to argue. If you don't argue, then your husband will just leave you alone eventually and not agitate you. She said, no, I'm not, that's not, no, I'm born in this part of India and we don't accept that type of behavior. And then, she went off the rails right there. I said, but then there's no use I come do puja either, because you're not going to listen to what I say, and it's not going to really help you. He said, no, your puja is very powerful. I said, not in this case, because I just gave you a little bit of advice, you didn't accept it. I said, look, you should be happy that your husband sometimes maybe be harsh or be insulting. She said, happy? What, you're crazy or what? Why should I be happy? I said, because you should make a vow. Every time your husband is nasty, you should make a vow to chant 5 more rounds that day of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. She said, I don't even chant 1 round. Why should I chant 5 more rounds? I said, well, you should start chanting. And you should build up to 16 rounds, and whenever you get insulted, you should chant 5 more that day. She said, no, I'm not going to do that. So that's the problem, right? The puja itself is not what solves a problem. It's taking the advice of genuine sadhus that can solve the problem, right? So people think there's something miraculous about the puja. Well, there might be some things, but it's only if you listen to the advice given by the proper teachers. So, therefore, in this verse 7:28, it says, only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. What a nice explanation. See? And notice the word gradual was repeated several times. This is a gradual process. It's not overnight. It's not fast food or hurry curry or anything like that. This is a slow process, and the main thing that makes this process progressive is hearing every day, getting that vaccine of hearing through the ears into the mind, this Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so then we'll finish this. What time is it now? Okay. One cannot, however, be engaged in the penance of devotional service without being completely free from all sins. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, only a person who is completely free from all reactions of sins can engage himself in the worship of the Lord. Brahmaji was sinless, and therefore he faithfully discharged the advice of the Lord. There it is. He faithfully discharged the advice of the Lord. What was the Lord's advice? Brahma didn't even see him. He just heard this mysterious voice say, ta, pa, the 16th consonant of the Sanskrit alphabet and the 21st consonant of the Sanskrit alphabet. Ta, pa. That proves that every letter, consonant or verb of Sanskrit has deep spiritual meaning. And when those 2 consonants were put together, ta, pa, immediately Brahma understood I should get serious about penance and he stopped looking around in the darkness of the stem of material creation that hadn't happened yet, and he sat on the whorl of the lotus flower and began to meditate. And what did he meditate on? He didn't meditate on nothing. He patiently meditated on and prayed to find out who is his father and what is his purpose in life. And then eventually he found out that he's the eternal servant of Krishna. And then Krishna came, shook his hand, congratulated him, and revealed to him all Vaikuntha and himself. And that was after a very, very long time. But he did not give up. He was determined to find out who he is, who his father is, what is his purpose in life, and how to attain that purpose. So, therefore, Brahma was sinless, and therefore he faithfully discharged the advice of the Lord, tapa, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, awarded him with the desired result. Therefore, only love and penance combined can please the Lord. That's another big statement. Only love and penance combined. Penance is voluntary acceptance of difficulties, or hard times, but to make spiritual advancement. Therefore, only love and penance combined can please the Lord, and thus one is able to attain his complete mercy. He directs the sinless, and the sinless devotee attains the highest perfection of life. He directs. What does that mean? He gives advice, and a sincere devotee follows the advice, and so of the guru. So Krishna was the guru. By performing a very, very long penance, which runs into billions of years. And eventually the Lord played his flute, and Brahma was illuminated with transcendental knowledge, and then the Lord sees him, and he lets him see him, and he blesses Brahma with knowledge, and it gives him a vision of Vaikuntha. So this is something that Brahma did, and he is a jiva, just like us. So that means that any of us could attain the same perfection if we follow the process, and if we actually develop love and penance, or tapasya. Then the Lord will be very, very reconnaissant of the devotee, meaning you'll be recognized by the Lord, and then you'll attain perfection in this lifetime. Okay, so yesterday we also read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita about this same incident, or the same pastime of Brahma attaining perfection. And in the Madhya Lila, 8th chapter, verse number 68. In the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, we came to the point where Ramananda Roy quotes a verse by Brahma, and Lord Chaitanya says, okay, he says, Eho haya age kahak ara. What does that mean? So he says, Eho haya, this is all right. Before that, he rejected 6 different proposals made by Ramananda Rai of what is the goal of life. And they were good proposals, but he rejected them because he showed how in Kali Yuga they're not followed properly. But when Ramananda Rai quoted this verse, Yane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam sanmukaritam bhavadya vartam stanistata sutikatan tanavan manobir ye prayasa jita jito pi asitais trilokyam, which says, Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, those devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing empiric philosophical truths should hear from self-realized devotees about your holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities. They should completely follow the principles of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter. Surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and mind, they can live in any ashrama or social status. Indeed, you are conquered by such persons, although you are always unconquerable. What a verse. What a wonderful verse spoken by Brahma in the 10th canto. And so when he says, Eho haya age kaha ara, this is all right, but still, you can speak more on this subject. And now that's what we're going to go into. This, after getting the approval of Lord Chaitanya, now is going to discuss pure ecstatic love of Krishna as the ultimate goal of life. And there's a long discussion, so it'll take many days to go through it from this point on. But in the purport, it says, in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya, Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur summarizes the conversation up to this point, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Ramananda Raya, Eho haya age kaha ara. This is the process accepted in devotional service, but there is something more than this. Therefore, please explain what is beyond. Simply executing the duties of all varnas and ashramas is not as good as offering all the results of one's activities to the Lord. When one gives up all the fruit of activity and fully surrenders to the Lord, he attains swadharma, tyaga, giving up the lower occupational duties, wherein he abandons the social order and takes to the renounced order. That is certainly better. However, better than the renounced order is cultivation of knowledge mixed with devotional service. Yet, all these activities are external to the activities of the spiritual world. There is no touch of pure devotional service in them. Pure devotional service cannot be attained by empiric philosophy, nor can perfection be attained simply by good association. Devotional service by self-realization is a different subject matter. It is untouched by fruit of activity, for one surrenders the results of activities to the Lord, abandons prescribed duties, and accepts the renounced order of life. Such devotional service is situated on a higher platform than that of empiric philosophical speculation with a mixture of bhakti. This is verified by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, Anya Bilasita Sunyam Gyanakarmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnana Silanam Bhaktir Uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Devotional activities, however, sometimes appear to be impure in the neophyte stage, but in the mature stage they are completely pure or free from material activity. Therefore, Ramananda Raya replied after hearing the last statement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prema Bhakti, Sarva Sadhya Sara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually accepted this verse, Jnane Prayasam, as the basic principle of perfection. So what is it saying? What does this verse say? It says, it doesn't matter what your position is. You just sit down very tightly every day and hear Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by a genuine devotee. Then you will attain and give up, the sinful activities, the four regulative principles that you should not do, and accept the four regulative principles that you should do. But above all, you hear from realized devotees about Krishna's holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities, and give up these sinful things. And surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and mind, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, you are conquered by such persons, although you are always unconquerable. So you don't give anything up. If you're married, you continue being married. If you're not married, you continue being not married. But you hear, stanis tatak sutikitan tanaman manobi. You hear from self-realized devotees about Krishna's holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities, and completely follow the principles of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter. Surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and mind, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, Krishna is conquered by such persons, although Krishna is always unconquerable. Okay, so now it comes to the point where it says that the first stage is technically called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service in practice. The result of sadhana bhakti must be ecstatic love, attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is also called prema bhakti. In the neophyte stage, sadhana bhakti includes faith, association with devotees, and practicing devotional service. Thus, one is freed from all unwanted things. One then becomes fixed in devotional service and increases his desire to act in devotional service. Thus, one becomes attached to the Lord and his devotional service. So you see how many times he's repeating devotional service, devotional service, devotional service, and becoming attached to it. And through devotional service, one becomes attached to Krishna, and through continual devotional service, under the guidance of bona fide gurus, one actually develops love for Krishna. So knowledge and love for Krishna combined equals transcendental life. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? This is a lot of information. To digest all this information, you have to hear it over and over again and discuss it. The discussion by asking questions is very important, because there are many points here that are very profound, and it's difficult to assimilate all this at once. It takes time to assimilate this knowledge. Okay. Yes.
It says 13 times Maharaj, devotional service in this word.
In this one purport, 13 times. Yes. That's how important it is. It's not once, twice, 3 times, 13 times. Yeah. Yeah.
Maharaj, one question. You had mentioned about Prabhupada sitting on the Rupa Goswami Samadhi and
In front of it,
in front of it.
not sitting on it. It's in front of it.
Yeah, in front. Sorry.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Radha Damodar temple?
Once.
Yeah, so you see the courtyard, there's a samadhi there. And that's for Rupa Goswami. And for other great Vaishnavas also. There are smaller samadhis. That one is a big one.
You had mentioned this is written in some book, Maharaj.
What is? Oh yeah, there's a book, yeah.
What is that book?
I'll show you that book. Yeah. It's a book of interviews between this one devotee of Prabhupada, lady devotee, and all the people that he knew before he came to America. And especially the ones that were in Vrindavan when he first became a sannyasi and struggled for about 6-7 years. But people were observing him, and he was extraordinary in what he was doing. He was living in that very small room and writing, and sometimes he wouldn't sleep. He would stay up all night just chanting in front of the samadhi of Rupa Goswami with tears in his eyes. Right? So very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yes?
So Maharaj, so one has to go through this, has to do sadhana bhakti, and then you have the prema bhakti. That's what the purpose.
Yes.
So how does this correlate to the 9 steps of devotional service?
Well, yeah. Well, no, it correlates to 4th chapter, 11th verse in the purport that we've gone over before. 4th chapter, 11th verse in the purport, and it quotes a verse by Rupa Goswami, where he says, first there is Shraddha, and he defines it as appreciation in the activities of devotees. In his appreciation, Adho Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Ta Bhajana Kriya Tato Narta Nivritti Syat Tato Nista Ruchis Tata Atasaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Premab Byodanchati Sadakanam Ayam Premna Pradur Bhave Bhavet Krama. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. Okay. 411 in the purport. It's the end of the purport, last paragraph. And this is a quote from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, 1.4, 15 to 16. Oh, I'm sorry, 410. Okay. Yeah, 410. Any other questions? Okay, well, now we have Aarti, Hare Krishna, Guru Puja. Who would like to lead? Which lucky soul? Anybody? Ladies? You want to lead?
I'll get it.
You okay?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bando Mui Savadhana Mate
Bando Mui Savadana Ate
Jahara Prashade Bhai E Baba Tori Ajay
Janara Prasade Bhai He Baba Toriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Ate
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Goriya
Arana Ko
Marana Koriya Maneya Sa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uthamagati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uthamagati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye prasade pure sarvasa
Chaturana dilo jai Janme janme Prabhu Shai
Jakshudana dilo jai Janme janme Prabhu se
Divya Gyana Rida Prakasito
Divya Jnana Hriday Prakashito
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vedegaya Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adam Hajanara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adam Hajanara Bandhu
Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
Lokanath Lokera Jivana
Lokanath Lokera Jivana
Aha Prabhu Kor Doya Deha More Pada Chaya
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deya Mori Pada Jaya
Aha Prabhu Kor Doya Deha More Pada Chaya
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deya Mori Pada Jaya
Ebe Jas Gusuk Shri Bhuvana
Ebeyas Tusaki Bhuvana
Shila Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Shila Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Shinubadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale
विचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादे पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavani Pasyatya Desatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Hare Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari
Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajikacharya Statara Satara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Buddhi Srimati Bhakti. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vanichandra Visheshu. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain to pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection for fulfilled desire.
He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, Lord, from him extending faith and expiring ignorance is destroyed. The way the scriptures seem of his character. Spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees, O merciful and merciful Lord. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. May me spread all over this universe. Take the shelter